Please, if you have any doubts, please turn on your mics and ask the doubts, or ask your coordinators to write the doubt in the chat box. Or if there's anything that you want me to cover again, please don't hesitate and ask for that topic to be covered again. I'll repeat it as many times as you want.
Okay, let us continue then. So, what did we see? Right? So, what did we see? We implemented a method called speak. We declared a method called speak, but we did not initialize it. We declared a method called speak and declared it abstract, and then we abstract. What does it do? It makes it mandatory for every class that extends the person class to implement this method. To implement this method, what happens if we don't? What happens if we don't? It gives an error. It gives an error, right? Okay. All right. So let's get another class now. Public class American extends person extends person. Now I simply declare my main method. Will this class run without any other method? Will this run? No, it will not. Like void public void speaks. I have to override the method public right speak. What does it say? Americans speak English. Americans speak English. Americans speak English. Right? How do we save it? American dot Java. How do we run it? Java C American dot Java. Java American. We did not create an object for this class. So we can create an object like this. Person P is equal to American. What will Java do? It will by default insert a default constructor. We have to use the new operator. Let's create another object called American. A is equal to new American. Is there error in the program? I can declare the object of the new class as the superclass also. I can use it as the superclass object also. Right? What do I do now? I call p dot speaks. I call p dot speaks and I call a dot speaks. Right? I simply do java c start dot java Java American. Americans speak English. Americans speak English. Right? So now we know what is an abstract class. An abstract class has one or more abstract methods. What are abstract methods? Abstract methods are the methods. Abstract methods are the methods which abstract methods are the methods which do not have any implementation. We do not have any implementation. They only have a signature. Again, what is a signature? What is the signature of a method? Of a method? It is return type, name and arguments. Right? Return type, name and arguments. Example, void speaks string in language. Right? Is it clear? Okay. Let's look at the remaining topics. We have done this. We created an abstract class. We created a class that has to implement that method. Now, what is an interface? And what is the difference between an abstract class and an interface? So, the major difference is this. Even though abstract class should have an abstract method, but it can have normal methods as well. What is the normal method? Void shout system.out.println. If a person is shouting, the language he speaks is not relevant. Why? Because if a person starts shouting, you cannot understand anything. Right? Cannot understand anything.
So now, because this class is abstract class, I can have a normal method in this as well with an implementation. Now I can simply say I dot shout. I dot shout. Now let's see. Java Indian. Indian speaks. What happened? First I created an object. Then I said I speak. It executed this statement, came back here, then it said I shout. What happened? It implemented that, it executed that method here, right? Now I can override this method also. I can override this method also. I can say Indians can shout in a variety of Indian shouts in a lot of languages, because we know a lot of languages. Every Indian at least speaks two or more languages. So if we run this now, what will happen? It overrides. We override the method of the parent class or super class. Right? Now this method is executed. This method is not, right? But because this class is not overridden the method, if I say a dot shout, what will happen? What will happen? The method in the super class will be executed. Oh, sorry. If a person is shouting a language, the language he speaks is not relevant. There is no shout here. So shout from the super class was executed. Shout from the super class was executed. Any doubts? Any doubts? Please ask your doubts. Please clarify them. It is very important. Okay, let's continue. What is an interface? What is an interface? An interface is similar to an abstract class, but with the following exceptions. All methods defined in an interface are abstract. All methods defined in an interface are abstract. Interface cannot contain implementations. So in abstract class we may have one or more. We have, so in abstract class, an interface. Abstract class, at least one method, right? No, even if one method is abstract, the class has to be declared abstract, right? It might not have an abstract method. For an abstract class, it is not mandatory to have an abstract method. It may not have an abstract method, right? But interfaces, all the methods should be abstract. There should be no implementation of any method, right? All the methods have to be abstract. All the methods should be abstract. Is it clear? So all methods defined in an interface are abstract. Interface contain no implementation. Interface cannot contain instance variable. However, they can contain final variables. They can only contain final variables. So what is a keyword called final? What is a final keyword do? Right? So we have a keyword called final. And what is the role of that keyword? So if we declare anything as final, right, if we declare anything as final, it cannot be, its value cannot be changed, right? if if a variable is declared as final, it cannot be modified. It cannot be modified. What if a class is declared final? I can declare a class as final. What happens if I declare a class final? It cannot be extended. It cannot be extended. If I declare a class final, I cannot extend it. So let's look at these examples. Public final class example, right? So I have this class, it has variables, it has a method void a public void test, right? Now I have an other class called public class example 1, right? Let's run this example first, right? No errors. Now I simply say extends example, extends example. Now what will happen? Right? Got it? So this is it. So what are final? What is the final keyword for? Constant class variables, right? Interfaces are declared using interface keyword. If interface is declared as public, then it should be contained, the same rules apply, right? But in Java, what do? We do not extend an interface, we implement it. Why? Interface are guidelines, how and what all functionality should a class implement, right? What all functionality should a class implement? So let's look at this. Public So let's declare an interface, public interface example interface, right? Now let's declare a methods, public abstract. What is the method? Let's say void test, public abstract void test1 int a, public abstract void test2
It's
int
3
a
o'clock.
and b. Now all the classes should implement example interface dot java. Now how do I implement an interface in a new class? Right, first run this, compile this, right? Now how do I implement an interface? I use the implements keyword. For extending inheritance I use extends. For inheritance I use extends. And in this we use, so what if I remove abstract? Will it still work? Yes. So any method
that has no definition, implementation, that has no implementation or body is by default abstract, right? By default abstract. Now let's public class example I implements. I do implements. Now I have extended this class. Now let's say I don't implement any method in this class. Now let's see what will happen. What will Java do? Java will complain that you should implement example I is not abstract and it does not override the abstract methods test2. Does not override the abstract methods test2. So it says either I should declare this class as abstract or I should implement those methods. So let's see. So what do I do? What do I do? I implement those methods. What are those methods I have to implement? To implement these three methods. So let's start implementing them. System.out.println implemented method test with no arguments. Why did I do this? I could have overridden the methods now. I don't need test1, test2 because their signatures are different. Okay, I implemented all the methods. Now let's declare public static void main. Now what do I say? I dot test and I dot test 1. What will happen now? Oh, this is what happens when you copy and paste, right? Implemented method with argument 1 and implemented argument with method with argument 2. So even if I don't implement one method also, it will give an error. So what is an interface? An interface is a class which is called interface, not called a class. All the methods in this interface should be abstract. Now can I have a variable here? And var is equal to 1. Is it okay? The answer is no. All the variables in this class should be final, right? Final variables, constant class variables. So if I say int var, what will happen? Says expected this. You have to initialize and declare it as final, right? Final. Okay, final int.
should be final int. Should be final int, right? So how do we declare interface? We just saw public interface name, declare the method that the other class should implement. Then we simply say public class car extends vehicle implements an interface called steerable, right? So this is an interface for a steerable type. A car extends steerable means a car should do two methods. It should be able to turn left and turn right. Should be able to turn left and turn right. So class can only inherit from one superclass, right? We saw inheritance yesterday using the extends keyword. So every class, all the classes can only inherit from one class, but it can implement several interfaces. It can implement several interfaces, right? It just has to implement all the abstract methods in that particular class. Should implement all the abstract methods in that particular class. Are there any doubts? I'll pause here for a couple of minutes. Please ask your doubts. Go through this, take a 2 minutes break, and revise whatever we have done. Think about it and please ask your doubts. If you have any doubts, please ask them. Let's continue. Any class which implements an interface must provide an implementation for all the methods defined within the interface, right? If an abstract class implements an interface, it need not implement all methods defined in the interface. However, each concrete subclass must implement the methods defined in that interface. An interface can inherit method signatures from other interfaces. So let's look at this example. Public class car, we implemented a car which entails vehicle. It is inheriting this class. It inherits this class. Vehicle inherits this class, right? It implements two classes. What are the two classes? A car is drivable and steerable. I can steer the class, right? I can steer a car and I can drive a car. So the car implements two methods. What are the two methods? What are the two methods? Steerable and drivable. So a car can be steered right or left, right? So it has to define what to do when when a method turn left is called, and when a method turn right is called. And drivable means the car should be able to accelerate and stop, right? So a car has the properties of the class vehicle and it implements the functionalities of these two classes. So what is the vehicle have? Make, model and the number of tires, right? Make, model and the number of tires. So this is an example of an abstract class. The public class car extends vehicle, right? And we can say an abstract class implements steerable. If we declare a class abstract, we need not define the methods. We need not define the methods. So yeah, some people and a few textbooks, they also say that Java Java has the concept of multiple inheritance. That is, Java can have multiple inheritance in the way. What is multiple inheritance? Java can extend more than two classes or one class. So that is not true. So implementing a class is not inheriting the class, right? In It does not inherit the methods, none are defined. It does not inherit associations, other classes as well. So we should not say this, right? We should not say implementing several interfaces is same as inheriting multiple classes. Implementation of NAND is not inheritance. An interface details a list of methods which must be implemented. Which must be implemented. So, what is the major difference between an abstract class and an interface? And when should you use an abstract class and when should you use an interface? So, if a subclass, superclass relationship is generally is a relationship, that is, if like we have a superclass called person, we have a superclass called person. So, employee is a person, manager is a person, director is a person, right? We say is a relationship, we say we have inheritance. Okay? If the abstract class can provide an implementation at that appropriate level of abstraction, that is, somewhere down the line, the method declared in the abstract class should be implemented by the class that implements it or extends it. So what should one use an interface in place of an abstract class? The method defined represents a small portion of a class. That is, when the methods that are defined in the interface, they only have the small functions, but that are mandatory functions, and it implements a lot of other functions, right? When you cannot reasonably implement any of the methods, right? When you don't know what will be the exact functionality of the methods that you want to support. So example being car. So now if I have the turn left for car, every car has different steering wheels. Few cars has power steering wheels and few cars have normal steering. Now power steering, with if you turn a little left, it will turn a lot of left. It's easier to turn left, right? Car with normal steering, it's not that easier to turn left, right? So what do we say? We know there should be a functionality turn left, but what will be the actual implementation? I am not sure. It will depend on the card type. So I leave it like that. Okay. So this ends abstract classes and interfaces. Are there any doubts? Please go through everything again. I'll pause here for a couple of minutes. It and ask your doubt.
All right, let's continue. So, what is accessibility scope? Right now, accessibility scope defines the boundary of an access to a class and its members. Right. So, what are the different scopes? What are the relevance? Static, right? Non-static, package, class, and block. We'll take a look at all of these with an example right now, right? But let's first look at what are static variables. We have seen what are static variables, right? What is non-static, right? What is package? We'll look at what is package. Class we already know, and we'll look at what is block. All right. So let's declare a new class. Public class example. So let's say I have a static variable, static int x is equal to 2030. Right? Static int x is equal to 30. Now I have a public static void main. Right? Okay. And I have a function called in this class called public void add int a comma int b. Right? I have I have three variables int x and two as int a and b as arguments to the methods. As arguments to the method. Now, what will I do? What will I do? Now, I say this is static, right? Can I use static variable here? Can I update the static variable here? The first scope is static. So can I update the static variable here? Let's try and let's see what happens. X is equal to 31. Let's compile it. It compiled. So static variable is available all over the classes. Static code can be accessed but not the instance members. What does it mean? It can be accessed by anywhere. I can update the static variable from anywhere. Why? It is instantiated and available as soon as the program is loaded. But is this correct? Will it run? Let's try. Now, why? Main method not found. Public static void main. What is this then? Public static void main. It says not found in class access example. Please define the main method as public static void main. Okay, we missed this. Let's compile it again. Let's run it again. Okay, now let's do this. Let's create an object for this class. Right, let's call right, and let's update x to a plus b. So let's try and add this to and save it here, right? And then let's print the result here. Now it says cannot find symbol AE. Oh, compiles. Now let's run it. It says 3. What was int? 30. What did we do? We called it in this method and then we passed ae dot add 1 comma 2. Ae dot add 1 comma 2. But can I say ae dot x? Is this correct? Java will say, okay, I'll still print 3. Even if you declare it with an object, it will still be 3. Right? Okay. So what are non-static code? Non-static code as the code which is equal to 3, which is declared as non-static. Right? It can be accessed here. Right? I can access it here. I can say, what happens if I say this dot a? Now this a will not be taken. Why? Okay, let's not confuse ourselves with this. Let's do a simple example and then we'll proceed. Okay, a plus b minus this dot d. Now, what happens if I run this program now? 0. What happened? 0. Because it was created non-static, its scope was everywhere. Now, let's declare a variable here, e equal to 31. Now, now the question, can I access this variable inside this method? Can I use this variable inside this method? The answer is no. What will Java say? Variable e not found. Cannot find symbol e. Variable e. Where is this? So, scope of a variable is always between the brackets. It's always between the brackets. It cannot be used outside this method. Cannot be used outside main. So let's have another example. If e is greater than 3, do something, else do this. Alright. Now let's have a variable int x equal to 31 here. System.out.println x. Now can I print x here? Is this correct? Will this program run? Will this program run? We know this is wrong. But we have declared x in the main method only. Right? X is declared inside the main method only. So I should be able to print it. What does it say? Oh, okay. So now what happens is, this is the static constant. Okay, let's rename it to G. We'll come to that concept as well. Okay, let's compile it again. And then now it says cannot find symbol G. Why? But I have declared the symbol G inside the main method only. It's declared inside the main method only. Then why can't I find G? Because now G is bound between two brackets. So G is only valid within these two brackets. As soon as these brackets start executing, memory allocated to G. As soon as it is done, Java automatically dereferences it and passes it on to garbage collector, right? So I cannot use G outside there. If I want to use G say there, I have to declare it here. Now let's replace G by X. Now we have two variables called X. One is 31 here, other is 30 here, right? Now let's not call this. Now what will happen? Now because X is 30 here, now let's see what happens, right? Now if I run this, I get 31 here and 30 here. Why? Because when we come here, this is same as method overriding, but here we whenever we have the two, we have a scope of this variable is where? Everywhere. Where is the scope of this variable? Only in this section. So only in this section the variable which has been declared here is valid. If we have two variables with the same name, the variable which has been declared in that scope is valid. So got it? So the common scope here is this. What if I have declared it here? Then this will also be 31. This will also be 31 because they fall in the both of the common scopes, right? So we have done this. Class members can be set within the class. We have done the block part, non-static, and package. Now let's look at the next things.
they have class modifiers. Class modifier change the way a class can be used, right? No modifier, which means only within the package, only within the same package. So, public means a class can be accessed by any class in any package. Abstract means class cannot be instantiated. That is, we cannot create an object of the class. And what does final mean? Final means class cannot be extended. Class cannot be extended. That is, we cannot inherit, no other class can inherit the final class. So now we have access modifiers. So what are access modifiers? We have private, default, protected, and public. When we don't declare anything, it is called default. It is called default. Only the classes that are in the package makes us the default features of that class. When we say private, what does private mean? Only me. So only the members of the same class can access those variables or the class data or methods. Nobody else can. So what does protected mean? Protected mean subclasses and packages can access it. Private means only the same class methods and variables can access each other. What does protected mean? Same package and all the subclasses may access. What does public means? Anybody can access. So let's look at the example. So we have a package here, and all this package has all of these classes. All of these classes. Now, sample, if sample is private, right? If sample is private, then none of the classes, not even these, no class can use it. But if sample is protected, these three classes can use the variables and the function. Even if after they create an object, they can use the properties and values of this class. After they create an object, they can use the variables and methods of this class. But in case of protected, these classes cannot. This class can. Why? Because it is extending the sample class. Why can this class extend? Because it is extending the sample class, right? So if sample is protected, this class can still. Why? It is by default extending it. But this class cannot. This class can, right? If it's private, nobody can, right? If it's public, then everybody can, irrespective of extending or not, everybody can. Default means only the classes that in the package may access the default feature of the class. That is in the package. What are default? Only these classes can access the features. Even this class cannot because it is not in the same package, right? So now what is encapsulation, right? And what do we do in encapsulation? So encapsulation is the process of hiding an object's implementation from any other object, right? What is encapsulation? Encapsulation is a process of hiding the object's implementation from another object, right? While presenting only the interfaces that should be visible, meaning only giving him the information and controlling how will he get that information from that class. So right, so what do we say? The members of the class should only be declared with the minimum value of visibility. How can we control visibility of the variables? By declaring them private, public, or protected. Private, public, or protected, right? So then we use setters and getters, which are generally always public, to give access to the private data. Provide other public method known as interfaces that the other object should adhere in order to track with the object. So let's create an example for this. Now I have a class called public class uh, encapsulation. What do? We have private variables int a, private int b, right? Now we have a method called, right? Okay, let's not have a method here. But we have public methods called, we have a constructor called public that takes two variables, a, right? So we have a setter and a getter method for every variable, right? What do the method do? Right? We have two private variables. What happens in case of private? They cannot be accessed by anybody except the members of the same class. They cannot be accessed by anybody except the members of their same class, right? So now we have a private. What is the, okay, let's revise all these. Private cannot be accessed by anybody except the same class. Public, everybody can access it. What is protected? Only same package and same class and the subclasses. Same package and subclasses, right? Now let's take another class. Public subclass, subclass, not subclass, main class, public static void main string args, right? Now let's create an object of our previous class. Encapsulation example e is equal to new encapsulation example 2 comma 3, right? Let's take an example of this. Now first thing, let's make a mistake. Let's say I want to directly access the value. I don't want to write print again and again. What do I do? I simply say, what do I simply say? I create a method. I create a method print. It takes a variable. What does it do? It simply prints. It simply prints. Now what do I have to do? I have to create a class of this object of this class to use the method. letting the default constructor do the work. Now what do I say? MC dot print e dot a. Now what am I doing? I created an instance of the encapsulation example class, and I know encapsulation example class has two variables a and b. I use this constructor and assign the value 2 and 3 to a and b respectively. Now I say print e dot a. Now what will the Java compiler do? Will it throw an error or will it run? It will throw an error. It will say, okay, first it will say return this dot a. Now it says a has private access. A has private access, so you cannot access it outside. Okay. So what if I make it public? Can I then? Yes, I can. So what happens if it is made protected? Is this a class in the same package? Yes, because they're in the same folder, they're in the same package by default. So they can access it. So what if I make it private again? Now, if it is private, I cannot access it, right? So what do I do now? I say e dot get a. I have a public variable method here, get the value of a, which returns the value, right? So I simply say get the value of a, and it gets the value of a. Did it print it? Okay, I just compiled it. Let's print it. Value is 2. The value is 2, right? I declare the value as 2 here. So the value is 2, right? Now, what if I have to update the value? I say e dot set a to 1000. Set to 1000. Now what will it do? It will simply go update the value and set it to 1000. Set it to 1000. Got it? So we use setter and getter methods to allow control to access data. Now setter methods are methods that only alter the state of an object, right? So it only modifies the variable tied to an instance, right? Getter methods, they only return information stored in an object. Got it? Now let's look at an example again. So we have a main method class in which private, all the variables are private, and then we have private male count, private female count, right? Then we have name, sex, age, right? And we have the following setter getter methods which are public. What are the methods? Get age, get name, set name, right? So we have the following public methods, right? Now what do? We create an object, right? Now I want to set the name and age. What do? P1 dot set name Vincent, P1 dot set sex male, P1 dot set age 8. Similarly, I go and do this. Now these are two static variables in the person class, right? These are two static variables, so their values will be same for all the objects of this class. The values will be same for all the objects or instances of this class, and I don't need to create an object, so I can directly call it with class name dot variable name, class name dot variable name, right? Now what do? I set the value to male count 2, female 1 because I entered one girl which is Janice and two males, right? Then I ask it to display the return the sex of the first one which is male. Age is 8. Sex of 2 is female. Age is 19. Sex of third is male. Age is 34. Now when I say person should show distributed distribution, it will go here and it will implement whatever is there and it will do it. So let's say a possible implementation would be showing the male and the female count, right? So this covers the encapsulation part. Are there any doubts? Please ask your doubts. I'll pause here for a couple of minutes. Wait. Please go through everything again. Go through that example again. And ask if you have any. Okay. If there are no doubts, I think then we can move to your labs. We'll finish the class here. Have no questions? Okay. We'll finish the class here. Thank you. We'll meet tomorrow again at 2 o'clock. Please be on time. Alright, we'll start sharp at 2:05 at max. We'll not wait for anybody tomorrow. Thank you. Rajendra sir?